What is going on, everybody? Welcome in to Lineman Life Live. I'm your observant lineman, Uche Nwaneri, here with my co-host, Justin Blaylock.
What it do, baby?
NFL draft just ended.
Feels like it was all weekend.
It was all damn weekend. But we'll talk about the NFL draft, and we'll go through an article that kind of gives reviews for each team. We got our own thoughts as well. Do me a favor, make sure you hit that like button if you're just jumping into the live stream. Appreciate you guys for being in here. Now, a couple things we're going to talk about in this show tonight. Obviously, huge news coming out of the NFL as we have now witnessed another player who is going to be on the sidelines as the season starts. DeAndre Hopkins has been suspended 6 games by the NFL for violating the performance-enhancing drug policy. League sources tell Adam Schefter. Now, I'm curious, what the hell kind of PEDs was he using? Because he's not a cat who, he's not huge.
Right.
He's not particularly like stout in regards to avoiding injury. And the tendency is if you're on performance enhancing drugs, through the time you're on it, you tend to be basically injury proof, which has clearly not been the case for D-Hop in the last season. So it's kind of hard to really speculate as to how this happened. Now, we both know, Justin, that when it comes to PED failures in the NFL, that can mean a lot of different things. Doesn't necessarily mean that he was, boosting up on steroids or using HGH. There's a number of different banned substances in the NFL that in some cases are only banned in the NFL.
Right.
And, as a player, it's posted all over locker rooms. You are responsible for what you put in your body. They don't care if you didn't know. It is literally an automatic suspension if you get caught failing for any of the chemicals that they deem to be performance enhancing. Now, also with a lot of players, and I won't speculate as to the amount, but with many players, they don't know what they really honestly don't know that didn't know that there was certain substances in their supplements that they take, because
you're right.
The supplement industry is not regulated.
Exactly.
So they don't have to tell you what is inside of the supplements you're taking. They don't have to tell you what their chemical formulas are and whether or not there's something that's banned.
That's proprietary. That's proprietary. I can't tell you.
Yeah, like it's their own custom blend. Yeah, we just threw a little HGH in there.
But here's
some anabolics,
The league will tell you. So there is a hotline. You can call and ask about certain supplements. Hey, what's in this? Yada yada yada. So naturally, I have called these people, and at the end of the day, they say, "Well, that's just what's on the ingredient list. It could be something else in there. It could be tainted. So I can't tell you one way or another to take this or not." So I'm like, "Well, what fucking help was that?" Anything can be tainted. I can go get a burner, and that's just tainted.
And they'll sit there and tell you, "Well, you're responsible for what you put in your body." See,
like, damn, bitch. You think I'm Walter White? I just got a fucking lab in the basement. I go test everything I eat. Like, come on.
Yeah,
this is getting silly.
It's wild, and also, look, this is something that deals with, you could say just from the purely from how it's framed with the NFL, this is something that deals with the integrity of the game, right? So they don't want players out there having an advantage because they're taking supplements or taking, any cocktail of different chemicals that gives them, an exceeded advantage over the people that they compete against on the field. So we look at this with D-Hop. D-Hop gets caught with a PED drug test, and he gets 6 games. Well, you can look on the other side of that, and you say Calvin Ridley bet $1,500, which probably isn't enough to even get a full regimen of supplements to be able to get caught with a PED for a PED drug test. And he got suspended for the entire 2022 NFL season. So again, we see the complete lack of parity in the NFL and how they handle players when they violate, said rules. So it's kind of like, it's anybody's guess what somebody's punishment is going to be for something when it comes to the NFL, because it's not necessarily consistent. Really, it's not consistent at all when you compare violations, whether they be something that has to do directly with playing or something that is on the outside of it, where you're in your personal life and you made a decision to put $1,500 on the team you play for because you believe you're going to win. Your team's good, and
this is easy money.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I'm not even with the team. I'm on the NFI list, so I'm technically away from the team,
on leave.
Right. But rules is rules. I mean,
rules.
That one is posted everywhere for you to see.
Yeah. So,
but so is this. Depending on what he got caught taking, like we said earlier, there's no way to know right now. Although if I had to guess, I bet his team will leak it out what it was, as long as it's not steroids, just so he can be like, he's not taking steroids, so they'll leak it out most likely.
No, I think you're right with that. It's probably, if it's something that's not particularly like egregious, where it's like he really was just taking a supplement that happened to have something in it, then you're going to be looking at players who are going to put that out there, players who are going to have comments about that because they want to make sure that it doesn't like damage his reputation.
Exactly.
And again, I mean, we're talking about a wide receiver
who's not a big guy.
I just don't really see where he benefited from those PEDs if he was taking them. So
he's like 6'2", 190. So it's not like he's not like David Boston out here,
Yeah, it's just it's a little weird to that this just pops up today, but I guess that makes the Arizona Cardinals draft a little bit more, makes it make a little bit more sense, because obviously they made the trade with the Baltimore Ravens to get Marquise Brown,
right?
And a lot of people were surprised at that, especially Baltimore fans. They was like, "What the hell's going on?" But it was clearly a preemptive move before this news hit for them to. They probably found out that he was suspended.
Yeah, they knew
Thursday or Friday.
Yeah, they knew before the draft.
They knew before the draft, and they were like, "We got to get a wideout. We're gonna need one," and they made that move. So I think, in a way, in football, when you get into the decision-making department, upper management, this is something that they're going to hold against him, whether he realizes it or not later, if he tries to come get more money. Because that's what the NFL does. They don't even care. The team may know that he really didn't do this on purpose. They don't care. They got a chip now.
Right.
So they got some leverage.
Yeah, they're definitely going to play it. But what's crazy is, like, he was an anti-vax guy. So he's like conscious about what's going in his body. So that makes this kind of...
Well, so he claims.
Well, yes. So he claims. But, if I'm that pressed about, putting these foreign substances in my body, I'm probably not going to just take any supplement willy-nilly either. I'm going to do my research, and that just makes it kind of peculiar to me. Now I'm curious, what this really is. And he, I guess, waived his opportunity to appeal. So, most cats would appeal a 6-game suspension. He's like, what?
It's whatever. Yeah. No, I mean, look, I've been in the program before, so I know that appeal don't mean shit. That appeal is not changing nothing. It's merely something that they have to afford you.
Wait,
you're not getting this overturned. Unless you got a scientist who comes in here and says that somebody did this and that changed the chemical from this to that, and that's why because they got scientists too, and they'll be like, nah. That's what was in you. So they don't care. So I can see why he would do that. But it's a good point though. He's putting shit in his system. He don't even know what's in it. But he wouldn't take a vaccine. So there's kind of a hypocrisy there. I can see that. But, at the end of the day, D-Hop's going to be out 6 weeks during the regular season. And, I mean, they're a worse team without him. So we'll see how they fare. Marquise Brown's going to be there to kind of pick up the slack. That'll actually make them a better receiving core when he does return, because Marquise Brown has some skills. He still has a skill set. You know what I mean? So
he's a young guy.
Got a skill set.
Yep. They got some weapons. They're
gonna have some weapons. They're gonna have some weapons. So we'll see if there's anything else that comes up about this. But as far as it goes right now, 6 games for D-Hop. He's gonna be out. Now moving on, and this I believe is a situation that really is a good chance to have a discussion over culture of football, whether it be in the locker room, whether it be in the front office, or whether it's in the scouting. Now, this is something that has become an issue that people are talking about today. This was a tweet of a video put out by Mina Kimes. And I know many of you out there know who Mina Kimes is. She's an analyst with ESPN. She has good takes sometimes, and other times, not so good, in my opinion. But I wouldn't say that I wouldn't say that she's anyone who is who doesn't have experience and some knowledge when it comes to football and how the culture is from the media's perspective, because she does have some knowledge in that regard. But this tweet and this video that comes along with it, I think that there is a discussion to be had about this, because I'm not so sure she got this one right. But I'll let you guys chime in the chat, and me and Justin will talk about it. She says, when we reduce Black prospect stories of adversity to traits like 40 times, we reduce them as human beings. Some thoughts on the comments from a Bear scout on Jaquan Brisker this weekend, and a problem that continues to persist in draft commentary. All right, buckle up. Going down that fucking race rabbit hole. Let's go, guys. Here we go. Let's hear what she has to say.
I mean, first I should say we weren't there, right? But what Thibodeau is...
Oh, precursor. Also, this is spurned from Kayvon Thibodeau allegedly saying he had some issues with how his interview went with the New York Giants, who ended up drafting him in the first round. Anyway, so
could have been too bad.
Couldn't have been too bad. He didn't. He didn't pull a Eli Manning and say, "I ain't playing for them sons of bitches."
Right. They still cut the check.
They still cutting the check, and he was still jumping for joy when his name got called. So let's hear this.
He did the little fingers with Roger Goodell.
You know what I mean? They did the coordinated fucking hand smacks. I'm like, where do they do that?
Yeah, he wasn't too upset.
I'm like, did y'all know y'all were gonna get drafted at this spot or something? Like, but anyways, let's check out the video, and then me and Justin will talk about it.
I mean, first I should say we weren't there, right? But what Thibodeau is alleging is something that has plagued the draft process for decades, which is stories from Black players of them feeling dehumanized, disrespected, or stereotyped by coaches, evaluators, the media of all backgrounds. I mean, Laura, this very weekend, a Bears scout said out loud that part of the reason they liked Jaquan Brisker, the safety out of Penn State, was because he was, quote, PhD, poor, hungry and desperate.
Mm.
And you hear that and you think, man, if that's what they're saying in public, what is being said behind closed doors? I mean,
Okay, so here's the tweet from Courtney Cronin that actually covers this specific situation. Now I'll read it just to kind of follow up on this. It says Bears national scout Chris Prescott on Jaquan Brisker. He's a what would we call it? Or no, I'm sorry. He's a what would we call it? PhD. Poor, hungry, and desperate. Football is his life. This is this kid's life. There's a lot to like about that when you see a guy who's so passionate about football. So, look, this is where, to me, I would say that Mina Kimes doesn't understand the culture of football in all its aspects. And really, not even just football, team sports in general, in my opinion. I felt like this is something, either she misunderstands the lingo that this guy is using, or she's spinning this to, I don't know, make it about race when it's maybe not about race. I don't think this is necessarily a race thing, because PhD, poor, hungry, and desperate. Well, what do you call a guy that you see, whether it's in football, basketball, baseball, hockey, when you see a guy who is an underrated, undrafted, or maybe under-talented guy who is out there making plays, who's out there, being clutch for his team when needed, you say that dude's hungry. What do you do when you see a guy on a workout film on Twitter who's training, pushing freaking 18-wheeler tires up and down the street because he's trying to get a tryout with a team? You say he's hungry. I feel like this is something that's said in a way, or this is something that really represents what the mindset of a player is when they are in the process of trying to get to that next level. And even in the sales world, PhD is a term that's used. Poor, hungry, and desperate. It means a cat is going to be clawing and scratching to be successful, to get where they need to be, to make things happen. I don't understand how this is now being applied to the dehumanization of Black athletes, because to me, it's just an incorrect understanding of what is actually being said here. But
yeah, I think
what do you think?
In our sport more so than others, but I mean, I guess like you said, all team sports, it is an admirable trait, for someone to outwork their talent. They say hard work,
Overachieve.
Hard work beats talent. The talent don't work hard. Everyone likes that underdog story. Like, oh man, this guy, he didn't have all the God-given ability, but we bust his ass, and he finally made it. So from that point of view, yeah, this is the type of player you want for sure. Someone that lives and breathes football. I wasn't aware of the sales term, but I mean, it is so common. I can understand, why folks would say it in that fashion, because a lot of our young men do come from those backgrounds, like it or not. So not completely untrue. I mean, what do you say about a white cat that's scrappy? I don't really hear them saying these things about them.
You call him a tryhard.
I mean,
you call him a hustle man. He's a hustle man.
Us players call him a tryhard. That annoying guy that thinks it's a Super Bowl when it's just a practice. But in the media, he's just a scrappy guy. This guy's a fighter. He doesn't have the tangibles, but he'll bite you in the kneecap.
We're gonna bite. You're gonna punch me in the face. We're gonna bite you in the kneecaps.
So
no, I
think she has something there where that phrasing is only applied to us, but the attributes are wanted from everybody. They just they don't talk about white kids this way. Even if they were poor or come from humble beginnings, they can be fighters just as much.
I think that on the other side of that, I think that you do hear when it's a white athlete that comes from like an impoverished background who's playing hard, who's out. They'll profile him. They'll do a story on him during the game, and
because it's so unusual.
Because well, that and the fact that look at the NFL, 70% black.
Right,
so the chances are you're going to have more of that than you will on the white side, because yes, there are a lot of players who come from poverty, but there are a lot of players who don't.
Yeah.
Like, I was raised middle class.
Yeah, we're from the same area. Plano's Dallas suburbs.
That's all middle class.
Yeah.
That was like, and when we were growing up, that was like upper middle class. It wasn't like now it would be like, now you're looking at like lower middle class in comparison. But back then that would have been upper middle class. Like, my parents came from a foreign country and they had their period of struggle where they were in poverty, but they moved out of that, and timing was right with the economy booming in the mid 90s, and boom, we were in the suburbs before you know it. But
moving on up.
Yes. We're moving on up to the east side. But no, I think that lingo like that it's part of the sport, because there's a truth to that for every player.
Mm-hmm.
There's a truth to that. There's a bit of truth in that for every player, because we all was in college broke as shit.
Right.
We had no money. We stretching $500 through a month like it ain't nothing. Like, come on, baby. We was all broke, and we all were aspiring to make it to the NFL. We all made the choice. Now, I had discussions with people who look at it and say, well, when are we going to stop having to just be athletes? Just stop having to be football players and basketball players, and when are we going to get more doctors and this and that? Like, look, we choose to play football. Cats chose to play football. It's not, and for some cats, sure, they may see it as their ticket out of their situation. But even if they weren't in that situation, I feel like they would still pick football, because it's a sport. You got to love football to be able to take this shit for decades to try to get to the NFL.
Yeah, they're acting like cats that don't love football make it a lot. It's very rare for someone that doesn't love football. It's one of those things. If you're in it, you've been there, have to love it. It's all encompassing.
Yeah,
I'm trying to think of cats that like are just like nonchalant about how they feel about football. Those guys typically don't last.
Don't last long. They don't last, or they don't make it.
Yeah, if they make it to the pros, they're not going to have no long career.
Yeah, because you can't do this. You can't do this sport and go through all of the beating and all of the pain and all of the disappointments, and you can't do that unless you love doing it. Unless you love the sport,
you're not going out there with a high ankle sprain.
It's not worth it.
You're not having a high ankle sprain on Sunday, and doing the necessary rehab to get back out there on a Thursday night game if you don't love it.
Yeah,
it's too easy to fold up the tent and just go home.
Absolutely.
Look at I know basketball is different because guaranteed money, but look at Ben Simmons. You telling me a cat like that
basketball
wouldn't last a day in football? Like, you sitting over here. I guess your backs are hard to diagnose. A million things can go wrong with it, but you're not going to try.
He's not gonna try. He's like, he coming to the stadium looking like a bottle of Gatorade. Sitting there, and he was just sitting straight up, just with his little. Like he had all kinds of shit going on. He looked like the one sore thumb sticking out of that whole side of the arena.
He straight up
He's
saying the
straight
wrong
face the whole time.
spring summer catalog.
You know, like he said, I ain't playing. What y'all mean?
Y'all lost, not me.
For real. Game 4, y'all got me messed up. I ain't coming back. But you know, it's I think that, and let's finish the video real quick. But I really just think it's interesting that this is how far this statement was taken in regards to just kind of the uncomfortability of it. Like, I don't know that this is, I mean, it just doesn't seem like that's what this guy was saying. Like, he wasn't saying this to like ridicule this player. And I don't necessarily think a player would, I wouldn't have like looked at it like that. I mean, just knowing as a player, like we all hungry, we all like are doing everything we can to make it to this level. Like this was the goal we set for ourselves when we were young. So yeah. I'm desperate. I'm hungry.
I mean, if I'm if I'm the dean of a law school, I want people that are hungry and desperate. I mean, not necessarily poor because they got to pay to go to school. I need them bucks. But no matter what avenue I preside over, I want people that want to be there, are willing to sacrifice to be successful. And I think that's what they're talking about here. I mean, does the phrase sound kind of shitty? A little.
Yeah, but, I mean, if he didn't say poor, I think nobody would even think twice.
You're probably right. Now, I don't know if Mrs. Kimes, I guess, is around enough of folks talking like that. I mean, if you're in the life, you're gonna, know what people mean.
You're gonna get their drift,
have the gist of what they're trying to say, and
this is what
might not be a malicious thing at all.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like it's not malicious when you listen to the rest of what he said. Football is his life. This is this kid's life. There's a lot to like about that when you see a guy who's so passionate about football.
Yeah, he turns around and compliments the guy. Yeah,
he's interpreted the compliment. He's actually translated to you what he means by PhD when he says that. When he says poor, hungry, desperate, this is a person who has engulfed themselves with this sport exclusively to advance his life through this sport. It's not even just because he comes from an impoverished background, whether he knew that or not. It comes from his desire to play at the next level. And that's what he's getting at. The dude is passionate about the sport. He loves football. I think that they literally cut it off at the PhD part where it says poor, hungry, and desperate. And that's all they talk about at this point. Now let's continue the video to see if that's how it plays out. But I feel like that is kind of how this is being spun. So let me back it up a few seconds and then we'll start and hear the rest.
That you think, man, if that's what they're saying in public, what is being said behind closed doors? I mean, it's amazing that Brisker has overcome adversity and he should be championed, but to reduce his story to a draft attribute like a 40 time is to reduce who he is as a human being. This is something I think we've all been complicit in, including the media, in our word choice, the presentation of stories, but it's 2022, and by now we should really all know better.
She does hit on a few things in there. We almost joke about, how like the differences in the description of a play that a white guy makes and a black guy makes. We go out and make a play. Oh man, look at this athletic play. One of our Caucasian brothers goes out and makes the same exact play. Oh, look how that smart play. Look how heady this is. Look at his awareness to know that this was going to go a certain way. Even if, it's the exact same thing being done. So, complicit's a little strong, but I think it's just mainly lazy.
Man, I'm thinking about this and I don't see why, and what you said is true. there is different ways they describe in the past. I would say that it's
but we're also better athletes usually.
Yeah,
so, the thing about it. That's the rub.
So how do I say this without saying it? Like, the black athletes are usually the better athletes. Now, we've come to find, as over time, now we're seeing white athletes who are pretty fucking good athletes too. Right. And they are right there on the same level as the black athletes. We're seeing that in players. I mean, I think one of the first ones that I remember in football was Jason Sehorn. Jason Sehorn was a white cornerback in the NFL. Just saying that, you're like, huh?
That doesn't sound. There's no way. No way.
But he was a Pro Bowler, and he had I can't remember if it was 7 or 8 picks one season. Like, he had a lot of picks.
He had stats. He was not.
He had stats, and then he got hurt. And then, like with many players, whether they're black or white, you have one devastating injury, and it changes you as a player the rest of your career. And that's what happened to him. Now you look at, T.J. Watt, J.J. Watt. These are guys who are playing in a position that has been primarily dominated by black athletes for decades, really in football, period, for decades, for most of the NFL existence. And you're seeing these guys put up numbers that the black players weren't putting up. You see these guys make plays, and they have the same kind of swag as the black players have. So you're seeing the things balance out as time goes on, because you come across these guys who are incredible athletes who aren't necessarily always going to be black. Now, if you want to talk about how you talk about black athletes one way, white athletes another way, you hear this all the time. The guy's just a freak. The guy's just a monster. The guy's a specimen.
Look at that God-given abilities.
He's got God-given talents. And I think that's something that's applied more evenly now than it's ever been, just because you see better athletes, because them steroids that they putting in that chicken at KFC, boy, shit, motherfuckers going through puberty at 11 and just come out. You got a freaking whiteout with 6'5", 240 pounds, chasing down a fucking DB from 100 yards away. So there has been a balancing of, just kind of the level of talent is the same, even though there's more of one race. The other race has similar levels of talent. Just like at the quarterback position, now you're seeing more and more the black athletic, quarterback is now kind of the thing. That's the staple of the NFL now. That's where the game is going. That's where the game is going. Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson. I mean, you can go down the list of, Dak Prescott, freaking, you got, Kyler Murray, all these black quarterbacks who are now showing that they have the IQ, the decision-making ability, the accuracy as throwers. And, things have balanced in that regard to a certain extent on the field. Now, off the field, there's plenty that we can talk about, the ways that aren't balanced. But on the field, I think that a player is evaluated through his measurables. And I think that's what she's missing here, is that, yes, this is a competitive sport. It's built with the premise of overcoming adversity and being ultra competitive. Those are the pillars of team sports, and football is the most competitive of team sports. There's not even anything to compete against how cutthroat the level of competition is in the NFL.
Yeah, it's the ultimate team sport.
It is the ultimate team sport. So when you look at that, how do you evaluate, how do you decide the value of a player outside of their film and watching them play, to actually measure it? 40s, broad jumps, L drills, high jumps, like verticals. Like, these are things that you have to, yes, these do actually assign value.
This year more than most. It's like they didn't watch no film this year. Like, oh, this cat had 5 sacks in his whole career. Oh, let's take him top
1
10.
overall. Take him 1 overall. I mean, look at the Jaguars. The Jaguars are a perfect example of this. They picked a defensive end for what he can be, not for what he has actually shown.
Like we
which is a gamble because what he can be is generational, potentially.
Yeah, we went full NBA this draft. Everything was on potential.
What he has shown is good, not great football player. But I would actually say, in my opinion, that there's a better chance that he will grow into what he can be because, and this is also an opinion of mine, most players who are drafted in the top 10 have peaked as far as their ability as a football player. They are at their peak. They're not going to get much better. So they're either going to be consistently good or they're going to be a flash in the pan. I think if you do the numbers on it, and I have no way of I don't know what the numbers are, but I mean, just watching it, at least in Jacksonville, I saw a number of guys come in who were top 10 picks, and I'm just like, already out the league, huh? I mean, I think that the numbers would probably lend to that there's a higher percentage of top 10 picks that are not going to go on to play longer than 4 years than there are who will. And who are the Hall of Famers? The Hall of Famers, the perennial Pro Bowlers. They're usually guys who come in the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th round.
Yeah.
Because these are guys who have not peaked, who have not reached their full potential as players. And by the time they do, once you get to your peak, it's about maintaining that peak. A lot of the guys in college who come out first, who get drafted, quickly, they're at the top of their game. They might add a little element here or there, but if they're not already just an instinctive playmaker, in their first, years as a pro, then they're gonna just be another guy.
Yeah.
And I think when you look at Tavon, what the fuck is his name?
Walker.
Tavon Walker. When you look at him, this is a guy who's 275 pounds around. What did he run?
4.51. Like his physical attributes aren't gonna get any better.
The dude's got long arms, long legs. He's got everything you want a defensive end to be physically.
Like
he ran a 4.5.
All his remaining development,
probably 90% of the linebackers. Yeah, and receivers.
The remaining development of his has to be up here.
Yes.
Like you're about tapped out. You can probably maybe gain 10, 15 pounds, maybe.
He'll probably drop 10 pounds, 15 pounds.
Yeah, I guess depends on what they want him to be. If he's going to be
they're going to start him at D end. I don't think he's going to play linebacker. They're not going to keep him at D end.
I mean, it seems like a waste to put a guy like that at linebacker.
Yeah, you would be incorrectly using him if you tried to make him a two position player. He is a guy who could potentially be that. Now, again, getting back to the point on this with Mina Kimes in this situation, a guy's 40 is not representative of who he is as a human. So please stop with that. That is nonsense to me. Everyone is evaluated and given value as a player, not as a person.
Yeah, there's not like a good guy draft.
And there's no good guy draft. Trust me. Because when I was coming out,
no points for that. No points for being. No points. I mean, okay, is it great to be a model citizen? Of course. You don't have to worry about guys getting, picked up on a Friday night for, disorderly conduct or some bullshit. Yes, that is great in and of itself, but we're looking for guys that can play, and we're looking for attributes that lean towards being a good player. This is a physical sport. I need guys that can run faster, jump higher, hit harder, be more explosive. So ergo, traits like a 40 time, like a 3-cone drill, like a short shuttle become important. When I'm trying to differentiate between this guy, standing right next to each other, they look about the same. I couldn't tell any difference. But I have, these measurable quantities that I now know this guy needs half a second, less to get to the quarterback than this guy.
Yeah.
And that's all I need to know.
How do I understand whether or not a player actually has the ability to change direction without, stumbling to break down? How do I measure his ability to move laterally? What does that add to his value at the position that he plays? These are things that you can't even you can't evaluate the football and the measurable side without having information to evaluate. And to think that, a lot of these traits are that looking at 40 times as some kind of stereotype is like, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't make any sense to me. Now,
I will say it's not the end all and be all, because you can kind of gamify a lot of this shit. All these training facilities nowadays, you could probably shave a couple tenths of a second off a 40 time, half a second off a long shuttle. Just by a few little tips and tricks here and there. So it's, unless you're the Raiders, you're probably not going to draft just based off these numbers. You got to hopefully look at some tape, and ideally these numbers will kind of confirm what you've already seen. Now, some guys play a lot faster than their 40 time. Some guys aren't naturally gifted sprinters.
Some guys can't run in a straight line like that for a test. They mentally just don't work that way.
And for a lot of positions, it's not that important. Like I've never after
straight line speed only means anything if you're a cornerback or a wideout. Everybody else, it's
changing directions.
It doesn't really matter. We only want to know how fast you can move within 10 yards.
Yeah. I don't think I ran 40 yards after the combine.
Hell no,
in a straight line.
Bro, I blew my fucking quad out running my 40. I only ran one. I was like, that's enough. That's it. I can't run for another 2 months because of this.
But all these things are a supplement to the film, which is the most important thing. Like, can this guy play? How does he compete against similarly talented individuals?
And I guess that
confirm with numbers.
I guess that again, it boils down to the fact that I don't think Mina, and from a larger point, I don't think that sports media, when it comes to those who have not been in those worlds, and when I say been in those worlds, I mean you ain't played football or you haven't played in a professional team sport, because dynamics in professional team sports have a lot of similarities. But with football in particular, there is verbiage and there is language that is always going to be used to describe players who show special traits. And it doesn't have anything to do necessarily with their background. Now, do we want to say that there could be some verbiage that may originate in that kind of, this is a kid who, this is all he has in life, this is the only thing that's going to get him out of his family into a better situation? Sure, I believe that you could say that some of that lingo does come from, in origins, it comes from those situations that players may have been in their life. But it's never been used. It's not used in a derogatory way towards the player. It puts them on a different level of a team's I guess urgency to maybe assess them as a player to draft. It gives them a little bit more of the team's eye and ear to know that this is a guy who is willing to dedicate himself fully. He's not in it for just for the glamour of the sport. He's in it for the sport itself. And that's not to say that there hasn't been times that the NFL has gotten a little out of hand with how they handle stuff, like you were saying, Justin. I'll let you tell it, because I never heard about it until you just told it to me before the show. But they apparently have asked some out of line shit before.
Yeah. So what I was talking about was in the pre-draft interviews, they asked Des Bryant if his mom was a prostitute. I don't know how or what type of research they're doing on cats. Yeah.
Hey,
but somehow that's
they
what
doing
came
all
up.
the research.
But I mean, if you have any type of red flag or anything that they think can be, uh, picked at a weakness in your armor, so to speak, they're gonna dive into it and try to exploit it as much as they can. Try to get you to expound upon it. You know, they're making a large investment here, so they want to know what they're getting. In return, is this a guy that's going to be reliable? Another way we used to talk about it, instead of just being poor, hungry, desperate, a guy that'll run through a brick wall for you. Someone that takes their orders and does it. Even if it's slightly to their detriment at times. I think that's the kind of mentality
perfect example.
That's the mentality that teams are looking for, because you will be asked to do shit, to sacrifice, especially offensive line. Like our whole livelihood.
They don't even ask. They just be like, motherfuckers, this is what y'all doing.
Our whole livelihood is, getting beat up so other people can get glorified.
Yeah. We are
no other position. No other position in sports, I'm pretty sure, sole obligation is to protect other people,
so
on
that they
the
can
playing
get the credit.
surface that are able to go score and, be productive. Everyone else at least has the chance to score occasionally.
I mean, you see how we wild out if we land on a fumble in the end zone. See, we might as well have been the person who ran it in.
I got one of those. Shit.
Just jumping up, spiking shit, dancing and shit. You
shit
see
got
the
us
big
into the
man
playoffs
score,
too. Nah, I was too gassed.
Yeah.
It was like 10 motherfuckers down there clawing and pinching nuts and shit. Like, dog.
Hey, we almost had that one time, man.
No mas.
We ran a screen for Brad Meester in his last game in Jacksonville. And motherfucker ran into my back, got like 9 yards. We ran it in practice a ton. He was like, "Look, Brad, we called this play. You're gonna score, damn it." So we subbed him out, put in the backup center. Who were we playing? I think we were playing the Colts. They didn't even see it. They didn't even realize it. That he wasn't there, that he was at tight end. And we ran a tight end screen to him. I'm just like, I'm blocking my dude, and I just feel in my back, and I'm like, no, Brad, you got the lane.
There's a reason we're not running backs.
We ain't running backs, but moments of glory, they come and they go. But no, just kind of wrap this up on this topic. I just think this was a bit of a reach. I just don't think that this was. I think she didn't understand, or she didn't understand that this is not something that is seen as derogatory to the player or to the coaches. That's something that they're going to be telling the GM. That's something that they're going to be telling the owner when they ask, how much does this guy love football? Because that's the question that they ask. They ask, how much does this guy love football? Right. Because there are, believe it or not, like Justin said earlier, there are people who are naturally unbelievably gifted and don't give a damn. They just wanted to get the money. And once they got some money, they stopped caring about giving effort.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's a bit of a reach to take sports lingo in regards to this sport specifically and try to conflate that with, the dehumanization or the racial bias towards stereotypes of black athletes. I mean, that doesn't fit the bill for me. The NFL is a black athlete sport. We're 70% of it. So is basketball. It's a black athlete sport. So, a lot of things are going to be geared towards, firstly, trying to evaluate and rate a lot of black athletes. And again, on the other side of it, there are still athletes who are white who are seeing just as much success and have just as much to bring to the table athletically. And it's not so much a divide in how they speak about those two players anymore, like it was maybe 20 years ago. Because I remember in the 90s,
we're definitely bridging that gap.
Yeah, it was different. It was way different, and it was noticeable for us. We noticed it. Yeah. They talked about us differently than they talked about white players. And now, as you fast forward 20, 25 years, it's not like that no more. It's really not. And that's why that's one of the great things about football that I've always told people when they ask me about this stuff, because to me, everything, the circle is the locker room. And everything else is a circle outside of the locker room. And these are circles that just, you go locker room, coaches, managers, owners, media. We're the center of it. The locker room is the center. And racism can't exist in that center. It doesn't exist in the center because we go through too much to give a fuck about what you look like.
All that matters, like Varsity Blues, can he play?
Yes.
That's
it. And that's where, at the end of the day,
not get arrested every week.
Can he play, and can you keep him out of jail? So really, it's. I get defensive a little bit when I start seeing these kind of things pop up, because I know that in our circle, this kind of thing nobody thinks about. Nobody thinks about this shit. Nobody, we're not sitting in the locker room talking about how, coach, he ain't yell at the white player for fucking up the same play I fucked up. No. Nobody care about that shit. You fucked the play up. Get it right. That white boy might take your job. That's the problem you got.
Right. Now, I will say we are extremely privileged to not have to think about those things. We're these like locker room adjacent folks, media executives, et cetera. Everyone else that's involved in the industry, that's a real thing for them.
That's a real thing. That's that's actually, and I hate saying this fucking word. I hate saying this word.
It's her truth. Is that what you're gonna say?
That too. I hate saying your truth because that's bullshit. Narrative.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Narrative is something that irritates me to no end, because there is simply a narrative to everything inherently. Everybody has a point of view and a perspective. That is their narrative. Now, narrative in this sense, it might be her narrative, but it also is a narrative that the corporation has taken hold of to use as well. And again, that's what, to me, puts something like this in the forefront that shouldn't be in the forefront. This shouldn't be something that we're talking about today, because you misunderstood what the industry's lingo, how the industry's lingo applies to players, and what it means to say something about a player, to say a player's hungry, to say a player is, desperate to make his dreams come true. Like, those are things that are said. Now, do they sound great to the layman? No. It's gonna sound like, what are you trying to say? Because of his eco-social status, this and that, his socio-economic status. Is that what you're trying to say? Like, no, calm your ass down.
And she's around, enough and bright enough. I mean, I've heard her talk quite a bit.
Yes, she is. She has extensive knowledge in the game when it comes to stats and arguments based on accolades.
But knowing the game.
That's one layer of knowing the game. There's a few more layers that she doesn't understand them in the way that you would understand it as a player, somebody who's been in the locker room.
Like knowing the game and being in the life, I'll say it that way. It's almost like, I know that's like a mob term, but that's really how I view it. Is like, players, coaches, people in that, on that half of the building.
Yeah,
they're really in the life.
Yeah,
they talk about it upstairs. They probably talk about it using these same words that this scout used. On that side of the building. But once you're down in the muck, It's not like that. You don't have time to think about any of this stuff really. And
Yeah, I mean,
I could appreciate that they see it that way. It's probably like that 99% of other places in the world. But I think you would also say it's not a thought. We give no credence to that at all.
no,
It's
we
just
don't.
a way to describe it. No,
And it's and just to kind of wrap this topic up, it's really like at the end of the day, as a player, that's why I've always said being a football player, being an NFL player, and being in pretty much all pro sports, you're not living in reality. You're living in a different reality. You're living in an alternate reality because we don't see these things as players. But once we come out of that world and now we're in quote unquote normal society, all we see is people bringing up stuff about race. And we're like, huh? What? Like, I never really even, dude, I swear to you, I never even really thought about race in a mainstream way. I never thought about race because I never had to experience anything like that in my space with my teammates.
We're generally pretty insulated.
Yeah, we're insulated. We're protected from a lot of that. And
most of my close friends are white dudes, like country white dudes.
Yeah, like I got country white boy friends. I got who are like diehard Trump supporters. But we get along fine because one, they know I'm not. And I'll talk shit to him about it, and he'll talk shit to me about it. And we'll go on about our business. Hey, okay, well, let's do this. Hey, where you going to be at tomorrow night? Oh, let's do this.
Right. Like, are you still getting beers, right?
Hey, we still kicking it tomorrow? Yeah, for sure. Like, it's like we don't really, I don't care about what you personally view things to be and when you're talking about things like politics, because that's a separate thing by itself. And if you can't separate it from your life, then you're not gonna have no friends because everybody disagrees, or everybody, once you start getting into politics, shit gets serious with people. They start acting crazy.
Yeah. Well, they always say don't talk religion or politics at the dinner table.
No religion, politics, and don't ask me how much money I make, because then we're gonna have a fight.
Well, that one's people in the USA Today. That one's public knowledge.
Yeah, that's public knowledge right there. But
the other two, don't bring that shit up.
For real. Really, I just feel like them being on the outside of that and us being, players and then being retired and now seeing it, knowing what the inside is, but also seeing how the outside sees it, it's weird because it doesn't, things like this to me don't really make sense because I understand where all of that comes from, like what the lingo is based in, what they're actually saying when they say those things. So it's just, and of course, just kind of add this in there at the end, that scout was fired. Now, I don't know if he was fired because
was he really?
Because he was fired. He's been fired, but I don't know if it was because of that or, teams do these hire and firings through the seasons for scouts to.
The Bears did have a shit draft, I think.
And they had a shitty draft. So, there's a number of different things that happen with staff because scouts aren't seen necessarily as like upper management staff.
True.
These guys are like interchangeable like that.
Yeah.
Like they're kind of just worker ants. So, it doesn't always mean that he got, he may have been fired. He may have just been on the chopping block regardless. We don't know, but let me know what you guys think. Leave your comments down in the chat. But we're going to move on from this. I think we kind of have laid it out there how we see things, and just in my opinion, this is a bit of a reach, and maybe they should have done some. Maybe they should have talked about the whole quote that he put, the whole quote that was in this here, rather than just pick this one line out and then just harp on that. I think that would have probably if they really would have thought about it, that may have given them more perspective into what exactly it is that they're seeing this as. So we'll move on from that. So we're going to take about 30 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes to just kind of go through a draft review. Now, we live streamed the first round. I'm not going to sit here in front and be like, yeah, I wrote down notes and this and that. I didn't watch the rest of that shit. I didn't care. I can tell you with full honesty that I have not watched an NFL draft past the first round ever, except for when I got drafted. That's it.
That's fair. Yeah.
Every year, my first 3 years in the league, we would go to Radio Music City, or we'd go to New York for the draft weekend, only because it was parties. Oh, there's parties.
Yeah.
So we would go to draft weekend. I'd go with a few teammates, and we didn't give a damn about the draft. Well, we were like, wonder who we're going to pick with the 3rd overall pick or with the 8th overall pick. But after that, we didn't care. We didn't listen to it. We didn't watch it. We don't give a damn. Long as the only thing we're checking for is, did they draft my position? That's the only thing I was looking at. And hey, I'll tell you what, 7 years in Jacksonville, they never drafted a guard. So, but we got an article here from Sports Illustrated that we're going to look at, and we're going to try and breeze through part of it. We may not finish all of it today, but we're going to go through it and talk a little bit about this draft because, as with everyone, you want to take a look. Now, this draft here, they had the best at the top. I want to start from the worst. So I want to go from worst to best. And the worst in this draft, as far as Sports Illustrated is concerned, is the Minnesota Vikings with a D-.
Ouch.
Now, I mean, I didn't think that Minnesota was particularly I didn't really know what they needed per se, but they came out with that D-, and somehow I'm just not surprised.
Yeah, I can't even front. Like, they don't show many Vikings games down here.
Yeah, we don't see the Vikings much, but we also don't see them much regardless, year in and year out in the league.
Hey, if you're in the playoffs, I gotta watch you. You know?
Yeah, if you're in the playoffs, I know you're at least good.
You know, all those games are on TV. So if I don't watch your games, you know, that means you're not doing too good.
For real. And so, you know, and I kind of struggle with how I want to like go through this, but because I don't want to read all this.
Yeah, it looks like they needed. It looks like they needed DBs from the first 2 picks.
Yeah, they got a safety, cornerback, guard, linebacker, cornerback, defensive end, running back, tackle. Now, I will say this: the Vikings' offensive line, hot garbage.
Okay.
And they did fill the need at guard, which I thought they needed a guard for sure.
I mean, Dalvin Cook's still there, right?
Cook? I don't know.
I think he's still there. He's pretty freaking good, so you want to get a good line in front of him.
Yeah. Oh, Dalvin Cook. Yeah. He's still there. I mean, their offensive line was good at a point, I think like 2 seasons ago, but this past season they had some issues there, especially on their interior 3. Just because I did some film breakdown early in the season with them, and it wasn't looking great. But it looks like this was kind of a defense-heavy draft for the Vikings. Their defense was kind of suspect throughout the course of the season, but they get the D-. So we'll move on. And of course,
you are in the division with Jared Goff, but also Aaron Rodgers. So yes, you need some DB help. I mean, the way this draft went, everyone was. I mean, it was like 7-on-7. You know, DBs, receivers, left and right. So I get it.
Josh says they traded with 2 division rivals. I think that's what hit them. Yeah, that's kind of stupid. You don't trade with your division rival. That's like that'd be like Seattle, or no, that'd be like Tennessee giving the Jags AJ Brown.
Right. Like, unless you know something that
Unless he tore his Achilles and y'all ain't said nothing yet.
I mean, that's just still pending on a physical, so it's not like you can
and
get
then they
over.
still find out.
Not like you can get over that way. All right, who's next?
All right, next up, Commanders,
Commies.
Washington Commanders, the Commies. Man, that's such a weird name to say now. It's like Commanders. But obviously, Washington was going to need to get a quarterback. Now, the quarterbacks in this draft were disrespected so badly.
Goodness gracious.
They were like, nah, we'll pass everybody. But the Commanders did get Sam Howell from North Carolina. I mean, it just wasn't a strong quarterback class, but they did need a quarterback. They do need they did need to replace what was his name? Sheriff at guard.
Oh,
so they drafted a guard from Tulsa. And they got, they kind of went all around. They got receiver, DT, running back, safety, quarterback, tight end, guard, cornerback. So
they try to give them a weapon.
Fill holes.
I mean, between this kid and Terry McLaurin, they might have a halfway decent receiver core.
Yeah, Jahan Dotson out of Penn State. Penn State receivers, not. I would say it's not the place you go for wideouts. So him at number 16. Yeah, I felt like that was pretty uncalled for.
Another Bama DT though. They already got two of those. With Allen and Payne.
Bama DT.
But they play pretty good, so maybe they just think they'll keep that train rolling.
Yeah, so Washington gets the D grade. I mean, we kind of figured that bad franchises are going to bad franchise, and that's what they did.
I'm happy with NFC East teams fucking off. Please keep fucking off.
Oh man.
The
Eagles didn't.
Eagles and Giants both actually.
The Eagles and Giants came through. The Giants really came through. I didn't think they was going to be able to pull it off. Yeah, but Arizona got a D. Now Arizona did make a trade. They did get Hollywood Brown from the Ravens, but it looks like they tried to do a lot of bolstering on their defense here as well. Again,
a lot in the trenches here.
Couple DNs, they got a couple DNs, a linebacker and a cornerback on defense. They got a couple guards. So they're going to try and shore up their offensive line, which they absolutely need to shore up that offensive line because it was bad. See LA Rams playoff film. And you'll see just how bad it was for them.
Oh, Keontae Ingram started at Texas. I think he transferred to USC.
Oh, yeah?
I believe that name looks familiar. I mean,
now they didn't have that first round pick, obviously, because they went and got Hollywood Brown. But I think that I would personally say I would give them a C. I would give them a C.
I think you get to include trades. You get to include the player in their draft grade. So that's a known quantity.
Yeah,
I would give them a little bit of benefit.
I'd give them a little boost off that because of that, because that was actually getting what can be a significant weapon for them at wide receiver. So, but they get Sports Illustrated gave them a D. We'll give them a C in our book, and we'll move on from there. Next up, New Orleans. Now, New Orleans is kind of New Orleans was in a funny spot. They had to make some trades. They had to get a couple picks in the first round to fix some immediate issues. They got Chris Olave at wide receiver, and they got Trevor Penning from Northern Iowa, which I personally believe that's a bad pick. But hey, I ain't getting paid to do this. So Trevor Penning, we watched his film, and I think we both agreed he was just kind of a guy. Nothing really jumped off the screen in regards to his abilities, but again, being just a guy, I mean, you could be a starter. He could be just a starter for years off the bat,
right.
If he's coached right. So
good point, especially along the offensive line. Now, I do think he ran pretty well, like a 4.8 something or a 4.9. And he's a big guy, and you see him finish a lot. So he's got like that asshole gene. Yeah. But I still think this is quite high. A first round tackle, I'm expecting to be ready.
Yeah, first round tackle has got to be ready to play day one. Now, I think that the Saints have kind of done this before. I think they had a tackle that was a rookie who was a top 10 pick or something like that. Because they actually, right before I retired, they had me come out to do a mini camp, and I'm just like, all right, whatever. And they had a rookie tackle who I forget his name. They ended up moving him to guard. I don't even know if he's still playing, but he was. I was looking at him, when I got there, I was just like, this. So this what the first round. This is what he looked like because he looks like he was a little bit too flabby.
Oh.
He didn't look like he had no muscle. He didn't look solid. He had cankles like a motherfucker. When I see an offensive lineman with cankles like that, I was like, offensive tackle with cankles?
Yeah, tackles look like power forwards nowadays.
Yeah. Tackles generally are like barely touching 300 pounds for the a lot of way, and for a lot of teams nowadays, they're like sitting around 305 at the 305, 300. Unless you got those guys who were them special breeds like Trent Williams, who's 325, 335, but he run like he 300.
I'm about to say he's a 4'8" guy, or someone like Orlando Brown, who's like 360.
Yeah,
Orlando Brown Jr. I'm sorry.
So I feel like I just don't like that pick with Trevor Penning, but we never know how it plays out. They might end up being worth something. Only a few picks this year for them. They had 5 picks total. They picked the defensive tackle from Air Force. That's interesting. Appalachian State, DeMarco Jackson, a linebacker. Well, I think that could be a nice pick. But again, Saints get the C grade. I think that's about on par. They didn't really get anybody who I think was over, like even their top pick at wide receiver. I mean, he was good, but I mean, was he really he wasn't a game changer like that?
But they will need somebody if Michael Thomas decides not to go again.
Yeah, he's like, I think I'm not going to play. We got a $5 super chat from Charlie Tekua Petla. I think we got a steal with Notre Dame wide receiver Kevin Austin being signed as an undrafted free agent. Man, look, this is something that we tell guys all the time when we're playing. It don't matter how the fuck you got here.
Yep.
You got here. Whether you undrafted or drafted, it don't matter. Because I tell you what, I was a 5th round draft pick in a draft class that had 13 players in Jacksonville. Me and the punter were the last guys in that draft class when it was all said and done. Everybody else was gone by the time we got to our last year in Jacksonville.
Damn.
No, my bad. I was the last guy because the punter left the year before I did.
Okay. Was it Podlish?
Yep, Adam Podlish. Yep.
Okay, I remember him.
Adam Podlish. He got drafted before me. I was fucking insulted. How the fuck? I was like, what the fuck? I had the punter get drafted in the 4th round. And I got what?
Oh man, what a slap.
But definitely, yes, everybody wants to be drafted, but it doesn't matter if you get drafted. If you make that 53-man roster, it don't matter.
Yeah, sometimes it's better.
Never matter
than being like a late round pick. Then you can go choose a good situation where maybe where your position is thin, or maybe if you're willing to play special teams, which you will be if you're a free agent. It's just you get to choose your landing spot. So it's preferable in some aspects. Obviously, if you get drafted somewhere, a team is more likely to give you every opportunity to fuck up. If it's a 3rd round pick versus a free agent, that guy's going to get more reps, more chances to fuck up. But if you can consistently make plays, eventually you will beat them out. Because I got to put guys on the field that can win.
Yeah, I mean, look. I've seen guys come in undrafted and be starters in their first year. Yep. I've seen that happen. And it's not because And in some situations, a general manager will resist doing that because they drafted a guy who they were convinced that they should have drafted, and their ego will not allow them to recognize that you actually made a mistake and should have drafted the guy you didn't draft, who came in here and is outplaying this draft pick, understands the game better, and just seems like he's more ready to do this than the draft pick. That's a huge concession for a general manager to make. The ones who can make it, their teams are successful.
Yep. But that's why we got performance-based pay.
Yeah. Oh, that that performance pay. Oh my God.
Like,
when I found out about that, dude, I was so hyped. Because that was my first year. My first year starting was my second year, and I played every game. Ooh. So I was like, I got that player performance bonus.
You was eating.
Man, that thing was like 300,000. Cause I was like,
and I'm sure it's gone up since we got done. There was a cat.
Yeah, it has.
Who was the center of Minnesota? He was making like 700 or 800 a year. I think he was undrafted, and he ended up starting at center for a long time. Obviously he got a deal.
I think I remember the story. I just don't remember the name.
Yeah, I can't recall the name either. But for a few years until he got his deal, he was like eating off that performance check.
Mm-hmm. I can't remember exactly what the name of that cat was, but I know exactly who you're talking about, man. And then what's crazy though? Then once you become like once you get the what was it? Was it the extension? When I got my extension, that player performance
that shit goes away.
Just went to shit. I was like,
yeah,
come on, man, I can't get that. I think it was like not even 30,000 the next year. I was like, oh man, that's terrible.
Yeah, once you start making like bread in your paragraph 5 salary, it's you finna be like.
Once you start getting that bread, they'd be like, nah.
And like the single digit thousands.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay. Well, I guess I'm gonna take myself on a trip.
All right, next we got Miami. Miami, again, you see these teams that are in flux, these teams that are dealing with issues. They're all sitting at the bottom of the league with their draft grades. Also,
this is at least a B if I get to include Tyreek Hill.
Ooh, no, because it didn't happen during the draft. You can't do that.
You
can't. You can't. It had to be during the
draft.
But
I traded draft picks, didn't it?
Yeah, but you don't know who they would have picked without those.
You're right.
And again, that was like a month before the draft.
True, it's been a long damn time.
So Miami gets a C. They get a linebacker, a wideout, 2 linebackers, a wideout, and a quarterback. I think. It's just there's so much up in the air about this Miami Dolphins team now, with Tua and whether or not he is truly the guy they're going to move into the future with, because
they've given him every tool.
They've given him every tool. I think this is kind of his last shot
this year.
Yeah,
this is it.
This is it. If he can't do something with Tyreek Hill, we're gonna trade your ass.
They got speed everywhere.
Everywhere.
Like Mostert at running back. Mike Gesicki's a
Mostert
fast tight end.
See, now Mostert's coming off a bad knee injury though.
True. He might not be.
He's coming off. I think he's coming off a microfracture.
Oh.
Wow. Or microfracture-like procedure. Because it's
okay. That's serious.
Yeah.
Also got Jalen Waddle, who's fast as shit. So they're gonna have some guys that can go get it.
Yeah. So it should be interesting to see what happens with them. So maybe they didn't need to do a ton in the draft. They only had 4 picks?
Yeah. Teron Armstead. God dang. So this is embarrassing. I'm trying to blank on the name. The guard from the Cowboys went to fucking Texas. I know the guy. Connor Williams. So
Connor
him
Williams?
him and Teron Armstead to give him some protection up front. Went and got Tyreek Hill. They have set him up for. He needs to be successful this year, like playoffs.
Yeah, it's got to be playoffs for Tua this year, or he's done in Miami at least. And to an extent, there's a little bit of talk about his dedication to football. which has been in question a little bit by the Miami Dolphins. So we'll see how that plays out. I'm one who will always try to be straight up about these quarterbacks and where you get them from, and at any position. You don't get quarterbacks from Alabama, okay? You just don't. Why? That quarterback's not even the reason why this is happening for their teams. It's the wideouts and the defense. Like that's always like it's funny because you try to assign like traditional position hotspots to different college teams because they have a tendency to put them out. Alabama and quarterback has never been that.
Yeah, he was the first like really big recruit for them at quarterback. I feel like, I mean, obviously they've had a lot of guys go pro. I mean, like you said, it helps if you're throwing to guys that are wide open. You have you have 5 320-pound motherfuckers in front of you. You're not being pressured. So I mean,
rarely being pressured.
Yeah, they're going to have smart guys that are making the correct football play, getting the ball to their playmakers. I'm trying to think of like a badass Bama quarterback. I mean, back in the day, you had some, like before recruiting.
Yeah, like back in Bear Bryant's day, you might have had some good ones, but not in this era of football. There's just, I mean, even if you want to look at what's his name in New England,
Mac Jones.
Mac Jones, like he looked good until teams started to be able to break down his film. Then he stopped looking good. Then he got to the playoffs and got their ass blown out.
But I mean, if you're willing to go way back, there were some cats. I mean, you got like the Joe Namaths of the world and like Kenny Stablers. Some of these, folks like our dads might have watched.
Yeah.
Bart Starr.
But
back then, I mean, they were just turning around and handing the ball off. So it's not like Alabama's ever been known for, cats airing the ball out for 4,000 and 5,000 yards. Although Kenny Stabler was kind of like that in Oakland.
Kenny Stabler was, but I mean, hell, he had that Oakland squad was like, it was like having a Bama squad in the NFL. Yeah, wideouts just running free.
Yeah, not typically where your elite quarterbacks come from.
Yeah.
Running backs, defensive line or interior defensive line, receivers. Yeah. We go there.
Running backs, receivers, secondary, and linebackers. Really, every position except for the quarterback, and a lot of times the D line too. You don't get a ton of O line and D line out of Alabama.
Yeah, you don't see a lot of pass rushers.
Yeah,
this Anderson kid's going to be different, but generally you don't have elite pass rushers out of Bama.
Yeah. So Dolphins get the C grade. I think that's pretty accurate. I mean, at the end of the day, they didn't have a lot of picks, but this draft isn't really super consequential for them. They really need the players they have to perform.
Yeah.
Next up, with a ton of picks and
still did nothing with them.
And still did nothing with them. The Bears. The Bears go cornerback. They went safety with Jaquan Brisker, who we were just talking about in Penn State. Wide receiver, tackle, DN, DT, running back, center. I mean, at least they drafted some linemen. Now,
yeah, true. I see 3 linemen at least.
They don't. I mean, they need a receiver? Like, come on.
I'm about to say
they got
Jr.
one receiver from Tennessee. Like, come on.
And
that
was like your glaring need, and especially if you're trying to develop a young quarterback.
And you didn't even go first for a receiver with your first pick.
Like the 2 things that you draft for a young quarterback are protection and weapons, and they didn't do either until the 3rd round.
Yes,
like, I don't. Unless they think this Velus Jones guy is a transcendent talent that somehow got overlooked. I don't know.
And how would you even know? Because he went to a Tennessee school that didn't do shit. He can't pass the ball. So what exactly are you? What is this? So they got a lot. I guess the Bears were trying to rebuild their defense in this draft because that is about 70% of the picks that they made were defensive players. Now, and we've known this all season. They don't have an offensive line, period.
Well, they tried here.
None. They need left tackle to right tackle offensive linemen. That's what they need. And they didn't really address that here. And they didn't address it in free agency. So that has really led a lot of Bears fans to be pissed off this week because it looks like they're going to probably suck again for another year. It's not like these guys who they drafted are going to come in and have an immediate effect. I mean, come on.
Well, shout out to getting a guy from Southern, though. Southern University.
Utah. Southern University. Okay.
Getting the HBCUs some representation in the draft.
HBCUs in there, huh? Yeah. We'll see how that plays out in about 24 months. But the center from Illinois, but look though, two of the three offensive linemen that they drafted were seventh round picks. So you got to know that's not going to play out the way you think it is.
We're just going to throw this guy in there as an afterthought. Like you got to be intentional when you're trying to replace needs. You know, it's very unlikely that you're going to fill a need that late in the draft. That means the guys that play right now. These you're not hoping for these guys to play immediately. These are most likely
that they're not even going to be. That they may not even have the potential to be that guy that you put out on the field as a starter. Maybe a rotation guy, and in best case scenario, with everything working right, maybe they can be a starter. But you got your center and the center. I mean, you really didn't address what you really needed in the draft. You just didn't do it. So I would actually give these cats a D, to be honest, looking at Chicago, because really, again, everybody and their mama knows that these cats needed an entire offensive line and some wide receivers.
Yeah, like this year should be about nothing else than getting Justin Fields more assets between protection and more weapons. Tight ends,
just going to expect
receivers.
This cat to go out there and ball out this year.
Like you think he's just Willie Beeman? Like you don't need anything? He's not here by himself.
For real. That's so dumb. Good luck, Bears fans.
Yeah,
you're going to need it.
You guys.
Panthers. You know, I was a little bit surprised with them going with Ike Mekwonu at first in the first round at pick 6. I thought honestly that they would probably go. I thought they would go Cross.
Evan Neal, or I think one of those two guys.
Yeah, I thought they would go Cross or Evan Neal, because I mean, again, I don't know. Maybe they see it differently than I see it, but I feel like Ikem is a guard, one, and I think he'll be a damn good guard. But he's going to need
a lot more polish than this guy.
Yes,
he's still
very
pretty raw.
Unpolished, very rough and raw. He's going to need to be coached on the finer nuances of offensive line play. But outside of those things, the technique and kind of molding his play style, the cat is off the charts as far as his physicality, his finish, his motor. I loved those things that I saw on film. We both sat there and was like, man, he's coming off the ball fast. He's coming off with anger.
Right.
But at the same time, like, you're going to have to pass the ball at some point.
Right. Now I will say that these are things that can be taught.
Yes.
But at number 6 overall, I don't want to be teaching you all that much.
Yeah, number 6, I don't want to have to coach you up after every one-on-one pass rush. Because, you know, you look at Charles Cross, you look at Evan Neal. Those are guys that are ready, you know, in a passing league. Those are guys who are ready to play now. Ike Mekwonu, not on the same level as them as far as that goes. But I think he is a stellar investment pick. He is a stellar pick that you pick him to invest in the core of your offensive line for the next 10 to 12 years after you give him a year sabbatical to be taught how to play it the right way.
Yep.
Then he becomes your guy. Now, Panthers also got a quarterback in the third, which, I mean, hey, I think that the writing should be on the wall for Sam Darnold that
you kind of had to do this.
Yeah, you are about to force our hands. No, actually, you are forcing our hands, and we are going to get rid of you if you don't change our minds in the next year.
Linebacker from Penn State, that's usually pretty safe.
Yeah, linebacker from Penn State's usually a good call. Linebacker from Virginia Tech, solid.
They're pretty good usually.
Yeah, solid. Offensive tackle from Tennessee, mistake. cornerback from Baylor, could work out for you. Could work out. I think cornerbacks that's probably one of the positions that you can find a nice diamond in the rough just about anywhere with a cornerback if you draft the right kind. If you run into somebody who has the right measurements. Because if I see a cornerback who's 6'1" and up, I'm drafting him. All right. I'm drafting him.
In today's game.
Next up, Seahawks. Seahawks got a C+ here. Now, let's go back a second. I would stick with this C. I'll keep them at that C. I'll keep them at that. I think that they had this is a building draft. This is just a building draft. They're trying to plug some holes. I think they have the most of their nucleus in place, but I think this is going to be this is something that's an investment.
Yeah,
I hope they don't think that he's going to be ready.
It's all about how does he develop.
Yeah.
Everyone else is just sorry for the disrespect, but filler.
Yeah. Everybody else is filler picks. Seahawks get a C+. Now, Seahawks, they had this was, to me, that was the best pick at O-line in the first round. And they actually need him.
True.
And I think he'll be ready to play for him as soon as he gets out there. Because, they don't have Dwayne Brown anymore. And it's funny that in a year where they trade Russell Wilson, they actually addressed their offensive line in the draft.
Finally.
With 2 tackles. But the Seahawks, this is, I believe, in my opinion, the Seahawks are about to go through a lull era in their team. I think that they're going to struggle to make the playoffs. They likely won't be making the playoffs. Not this year, at least, because of the way that NFC West is completely. I mean, they've got threats from every direction. You got the Rams on the top of it. It was their division, but now the Rams own it. And the Cardinals is pissed because they thought they was going to be what the Rams were.
Yeah.
So now they coming at your back.
Yeah, they get their work cut out for them. I mean, and the way they're going to have to manufacture offense without a top flight quarterback, unless they do something, in the next month or so, if they can. I mean, I guess they're hoping Cleveland cuts Baker, and maybe they can get someone like that in here. I don't see how you're going to go into a year with Drew Lock and Geno Smith as your penciled in. One of them's got to be your quarterback if the season started next week.
Yeah, it's they didn't even draft a quarterback.
Now they have been run centric.
I would have drafted one just on principle.
Oh yeah, sure.
I've seen how these other guys have played, and
yeah, I don't even care what round
you had talent in Denver, and you couldn't do shit with it. So what am I expecting you to do here, where we don't have as much talent right now as we did because we don't have the same quarterback?
Now you do have some. You have some receivers, a couple receivers.
You do. You have receivers. One is one we don't know if he's happy or not. One that we don't know if he's happy.
True,
but they addressed that in round 7. They got 2. They drafted a couple in the 7th. I do think, I think this guy's ready to play immediately. I think Seattle is good at picking their linebackers. So
they got to replace Bobby Wagner.
They got to replace Bobby Wagner. They touched a little bit of their defense. They touched a little bit of their offense here. It was good to see that they went and actually tried to address their offensive line. But I think at the end of the day, we all know it comes. They got to run it back. Yeah.
I think Kenny Walker. I think he lead the college in rushing. If not,
yes, he
was
did.
pretty
Yeah,
close.
he did.
Either him or Breece Hall. Okay. So good running back. Which I mean, in that system, you're going to need more than one.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a C+ is. I think that's about right. I mean, maybe
when you come out of the draft with no quarterback, and you started with no quarterback, I can't go any higher than that.
Yeah. I think
it's a quarterback-driven league. As much as we want to dress it up and talk about other shit, other things are very important, but you got to have the quarterback.
You got to have a QB.
There's not enough defense nowadays.
I mean, they can't. That. I mean, even with the weak quarterback classes this was, you can't believe that the quarterbacks on the roster now are gonna be the ones you're gonna lean on. Like you don't. I mean, you can't believe that. So you just got to go get one. I agree with you. I think that because they didn't get a quarterback, that's your ceiling right there. Especially, with the situation where they've also lost some defenders. With just the seeming like the cloud that seems to be just permeating over the Seahawks now that they've lost Russell Wilson, it's not looking like it's going to be a good future for them.
Right, they'll be picking early next year.
We shall see. Oh,
my team!
Look who's down here at the bottom.
You know what?
Dallas Cowboys with the C+. What the? I mean, the Cowboys usually draft like out of this world.
I mean, C's get degrees. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. They just
a fucking communication degree. All right, let's get into it.
So Tyler Smith, offensive tackle out of Tulsa, that was their first pick.
With Tyler Linderbaum on the fucking board.
Tyler Linderbaum on the board, and they needed a center too.
And we get the guy that led all of college football in penalties. And we're the most penalized. Yeah. He had like 16 penalties in 12 games.
Well, shit, he'll fit right into Dallas. He'll fit right in. This is a team that can't play disciplined.
Well,
they're the most penalized team in the league, anyways.
I was gonna say, I think Connor Williams was the most penalized last year, and he had something like 10. But that was in a 17-game season. This guy had 16 in 12 games. What's he got to have in 17?
So he's just a holding son of a bitch. Like he's the cat that you can't. He's the cat that even though he might be good, he still holds all the time. And you're like, come on.
Oh man.
But Cowboys get a C+.
Jerry sees what he sees.
Jerry made all the picks. So they went O-line in the first, linebacker, wideout, tight end, cornerback, linebacker. This does look a little bit average for Dallas.
I think they know that Tyron Smith's on the way out, most likely. So 2 tackles you see. Corner, Trevon Diggs pretty good by those accounts, but kind of a feast or famine type guy. It's either a pick six or house call against them.
Pick six or 6 points. It's one of them.
2 linebackers. I think I don't know. Are they planning to put Micah in a rush position more often? Why they got 2 linebackers here? And also, I think the cat from Ole Miss is an on-the-ball rusher.
So he's a designated spinner. He's a spinner guy. In that.
Yeah.
They got him as outside linebacker, which is a 3-4 basically.
Right. Yeah. I think he's like a 6'5", 260, like a Sean Phillips type guy or something like that.
Oh, okay. SP.
The rest of these cats, I don't strictly know enough, but I think we need a more O-line. Because we got to get Zeke up and running. Well, the combination of Zeke and Tony Pollard, we got to get that committee going.
I'm surprised they didn't try to get a running back.
Get a back.
Either.
Probably should have
Because
got
I
back
mean,
as
look,
well.
Zeke is just. I mean,
It ain't
talk
the same.
about that cat. Oh, they oversold him like something crazy. He had one good season.
We got to get some of that money off the books.
Yeah, they got so much money on the books for him. He literally played one good season, and what he got a contract
90
after his
million?
third season, and then he got 90 million.
Went crazy.
And I mean, he had arguably the worst season of his career last year.
Yeah,
I mean, easily. He wasn't doing shit but fumbling and getting tackled.
I would have gone with some beef on the interior D line. Although I like the cat from Arkansas. He's a big body cat, run stuffer type.
Mm-hmm.
But something to replace Randy Gregory, which I don't know if this Ole Miss guy can approximate that. If he's a every down hand the dirt type of guy or stand up kind of guy. But we need some more pass rush, which I don't think we're getting from. I think Basham was the rotational DN we had.
Yeah,
I think C+ is about right.
I'd give him a D, but it's just it's I know that's your squad, so
no.
We let that C+ ride.
I'm not looking at this and seeing a bunch of like day one contributors.
Yeah, like maybe they're probably gonna. I feel like they'll probably start Tyler Smith. If they're gonna start him, they're gonna probably put him at right tackle. I think that's what they'll probably do with him.
Well, they seem to like the Terrence Steele cat.
Is that the cat they got there now? That's who they got there now?
Yeah, he was like the swing guy, but he was playing a lot because Ty Smith was always hurt. So
then he's gonna compete for that spot this year.
Yeah.
If you don't get it, then they know that if Tyron's gone, then they're gonna move him to the left. They're gonna put him to the left.
I would bet that he'll play at some point this year because Tyron Smith's injury history does not lead you to believe he will complete 17 games.
He hasn't played a full season since he got that contract. I don't think
it's been a while.
And they gave that boy $100 million.
Well, I think he's also restructured a couple times too.
Yeah.
Because the best ability is availability.
Yep.
So if you're not out there, you got to come give us.
You ain't out there. That motherfucker's gonna be like, hey, come here. We need to talk to you. You're making too much money to not be out in the field, my friend. All right. So next up, Tampa Bay Bucks. Tampa Bay Bucks got a B-. We'll do one more team here after Tampa Bay. You know what? Where the Jaguars at? Oh, okay. 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 You know what? Fuck that. We're going to do the Jaguars to finish it. And then we'll finish this off on Wednesday.
All right,
we'll knock out the rest of them. The Jaguars get a B-. Look at me over here celebrating a B-. With their picks. Now, again, as I said earlier in the show, Travon Walker is drafted for what he can be, and that is what they use to justify him at number 1. I said it before the draft. Aiden Hutchinson is not a guy who I see as a number 1 because his ceiling is too low in regards to, what he can become as a player. I think what you're seeing from him in his Michigan film that's about what you're going to see pretty much in the NFL in terms of his abilities. He's just going to be able to. He's just going to be
tapped out.
He's probably tapped out.
Tapped out because he's pretty. I hate to say this because the shit we talked about earlier, but he's a pretty heady guy.
This guy's a smart player,
but also a really good athlete. So you typically don't see guys get exponentially better athletically once they get to the league.
Yeah,
it's
very
very
you're not
rare.
going to see a better athlete. You're going to see a more polished technician. Now,
you might get a little stronger if you're like a young cat. Maybe you're 20, 21. you might get a little stronger, but it's not going to be like the differences you saw in college, where you might add like 100 pounds on your bench press or something crazy.
Mm-hmm. No,
So
it's not going to be the same. So
yeah, most development is up here.
Yeah, the development mentally, that's where you will be sharpened to a point mentally and how to play the game, how to understand the game, that you then understand how to use your own talents to take advantage of it. A lot of players in college are playing off talent. They're playing off their assignment, but they don't necessarily understand the concept of the play. The concept of a play is, this is a very, there's a lot of specific nuances that you need to understand because of the different variables that can happen on that play that you have to be ready for. And the NFL will teach you why you're doing what the hell you're doing. And once you know why you're doing it, then you understand how to master it in your own style, which makes you that much of a better player, because now you're not playing thinking about what you're supposed to do. You already know what this kind of play is supposed to do. You already know where you need to be to help it be successful. You already know how to save it if something goes wrong. Yeah. So, in that regard, you players who are going to be really good players, a lot of their improvement comes from that mental light coming on. Travon Walker, that's what's going to decide his fate as a first overall pick, is when his light comes on. Now, me personally, I think this, and I know some people will say
I like that pick better.
I think this was the best pick they made.
That was a better pick to me.
This guy right here has game-changing ability at linebacker, and he can play that entire. He can play anywhere in the box. Doesn't have to just be inside. Long arms, fast, instinctive. You can use him as a blitzer. You can use him as in coverage. He can do it all. I think
he had good ball skills. He was
great ball skills.
He had a couple normally if a pass rusher doesn't get to the quarterback, they jump up, tip the ball down. I saw a couple of those. He
he intercepted the ball.
Yeah, that's a hard thing to do from 5 feet away because the ball's going pretty fast. To have that type of dexterity, I think he's going to be a good player for you guys.
Yeah, this cat intercepted a ball at the fucking 6-yard line, right in front of the D line, or right in front of the offensive line. And he just plays fast. This cat is gonna be a day one starter, obviously. They're gonna be filling in that spot that Miles Jack voided. And they got a center to replace Brandon Linder. Obviously, he retired, so they needed to fill that. I think, Kentucky, I don't know what their history is with their draft picks, but SEC offensive linemen, I don't know.
If it was basketball, they'd probably have a good center.
Yeah. I don't know exactly what this guy's take is. I might for my Jags fans out there, I might check out his film and do a breakdown on it in the coming weeks, just to kind of get myself up to speed on him. But another player that they talked a lot about was this cat. Now, I got on Twitter as soon as they made this pick, and I was like, what the fuck? What are we doing? But Sean Phillips, my teammate at Purdue, who played a long time in the league as well, he hit me up and was like, dude can play. So I was like, all right, I'm going to back off. It. But he's going to have to prove it to me. I don't know. Now, this is another so this is, Chad Muma is supposed to be a really good player. We'll see how that plays out. Snoop Connor, I think this was a great pick because this is a guy who will provide you with similar measurables to James Robinson, but a step and a half faster and 10 pounds heavier and maybe 2 inches taller.
Oh, shit. But it don't stop there.
So, and, I've seen watching some of his highlights. Snoop Connor has good speed, great physicality. Reminds me a little bit of Leonard Fournette, a little bit. And they used him primarily at Ole Miss in the red zone, but in some plays where he was used outside and more towards the middle of the field, he broke for long touchdown runs and nobody could catch him. So,
Okay.
I think that was a good pick. Gregory
A
Jr.
three-headed monster at running back if the other two guys come back healthy.
Yeah. Travis
Big if.
Etienne, obviously, he's going to be in there as more of that swing back, the guy you can put at slot sometimes or just motion him out of the backfield and have him run a quick route. But I think here in this regard, I'm interested to see if this plays out because I don't know.
What was James Robinson's injury?
Torn Achilles.
Oh shit. Okay.
Yeah. But I think that Devin Lloyd was the best. What can he do right now? Pick. This is the guy who is at the top of their draft, and I thought it was a damn good move. This is me giving credit where credit is due, because I'm pretty sure it was his decision.
Oh, Balky.
Trent Balky got them back in the first round to get this guy. They made some trades, gave away some capital to get this, and that probably saves their draft in regards to just the overall grade. Because these two right here, not sure how they're going to play out. But you have potentials everywhere else.
You're not really graded on 6 and 7s. They can only help. They can only help you.
Yeah, they can only help you. I mean, you don't lose anything if they don't. You're not taking no big cap hit or nothing. Usually, there's not even a cap hit for losing like a 7th rounder, maybe a couple $100,000. But the draft grades are given for basically your first 3 rounds.
Yeah,
because these are the guys that are expected to play within the first year, or at the worst within the first 2 years.
Now you could argue that Trayvon Walker's D-line at Georgia was as talented or more talented than what he'll play with next year.
Ooh, and what? More talent? Hold on. What you saying? You saying that the D-line?
3 first-round picks. 3 first-round picks.
Okay, but they still college players.
Where do you think NFL players come from? I'm not saying that they're better than them today. I'm just saying that. Okay,
No. I hear you. What I'm saying is,
I mean, obviously, Josh Allen is better than anybody on this fucking list.
Yeah. No. I hear what you're saying. I'm just saying. I mean, I didn't really have no point. I was just ready to argue and talk some shit. But
if you're on a line with 3 first-round defensive linemen, I mean, I think Jordan Davis was getting all the double teams because he's just a freak of nature, size-wise. The other, Devontae Wyatt, I think, is the 3 technique. He also... none of them were putting up crazy numbers, which is odd.
Yeah, it's crazy. That's funny, though. That's the funny thing. There wasn't anybody on that defense who really put up a ton of numbers in regards to sacks on the D-line. But they were, far and away the best defense in college football, historically great defense, with no real numbers to stack behind it.
And the guy that was the best player, if you turn on the film, the guy that jumps out at you more than anybody went in the 3rd round.
Yeah,
Nakobe Dean.
Nakobe Dean, yeah.
He was
the guy,
far and away the best player.
Measurables.
Exactly. Far and away the best player if you're watching the game. Sideline to sideline. This motherfucker's everywhere. The other linebacker went in the 1st round. I don't even know his name.
Yeah.
But Nakobe Dean won the butt kiss. People always say
the slander.
Somebody was making them damn tackles.
Somebody was making them tackles.
He didn't run, 4.4 or whatever the fuck guys are looking for. He is a little undersized, but damn it, when that film comes on, he plays at a different speed than everybody else on that defense.
And you know what's funny is that a lot of teams are going to regret that. They're going to regret that because and I've always believed this, and I'm pretty sure we're on the same page here, Justin. I don't give a damn what your measurables are once I see you balling out on film. I don't care if you ran a 4.9. I don't care.
Right.
But look at the film. Everybody there running a 4.5 is behind him. He's making the tackle.
Yeah, he's chasing down cats that should be lapping him.
Yeah, he's undersized. Bullshit. That means that the O-line can't see him.
I mean, Cass was going backwards when he hit him.
For real.
I mean, what else do I need?
Jamming cats up left and right.
What else do I need size for? Besides to stop impact, or to stop your momentum. We don't need people to be big just for the sake of being big. This is so that you can hold up against linemen.
And that point there, that is where a lot of times you see coaches and you see these scouts make football rocket science. When it's not rocket science, it's football. If he looks that good on film, why would I care what he runs?
Yeah. I don't think I would ever detract from a player because of measurables if I saw enough film.
Yeah.
If I see enough film.
Film is the ultimate decider in my eyes. Your film decides whether or not, your stock rises more than anything you can put on papers with measurables. Because you know what? You can go train for 8 weeks to run a 40 and you can run a 4.6, 4.5, but you can't learn how to be a baller in 8 weeks training for the combine.
Right. This guy might not run. I mean, Trayvon Walker would run 4.5. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he doesn't sprint full out all the time. I mean, he was like an edge rusher or outside linebacker.
I mean,
type,
he was a true DN. He was a true DN, right? But the thing is he runs a 4.5. Well, he trained to run that 4.5. Is he going to run a 4.5 on Sundays every week? No.
What's his 10 split? Is he running a 1.5-10 every time he comes off the ball? I know
probably not.
Nakobe Dean, whatever he ran, he was running that shit every play.
Yeah. He may have put up a slower 40 than you expected, but that film, he looks like he runs a 4.4 in that film.
Right.
Shoot. And I bet if you're measuring his reaction time to other guys, he's beating them left and right. So I think a lot of teams are going to be I won't say that a lot of teams I think a lot of teams are going to be proven wrong in the fact that they let him slide to the third round. Because I mean the guy's a baller. He didn't win that Buckets Award for nothing.
Right.
So I can't remember any other Buckets Award winner who went in the third round.
Well, oh no, he didn't win the Buckets. I was thinking about Michael Sam, but he was the SEC Defensive Player of the Year.
Co-Defensive Player of the Year.
Was he? Okay.
Yeah, they left that out. Everybody left that out.
Well, that's still pretty fucking good.
Yeah.
At worst, he was number 2. And Manti Te'o, I think he won the Buckets.
But he got that. He went through that whole girlfriend thing. That traumatized the shit out of him. He wasn't no good after that. After that.
So that's one of the rare times like a guy didn't play as well as this tape would indicate.
Yeah.
That's extremely rare for it not to translate. And
I think he was one guy who did not translate in the NFL for some reason. I don't know what it was.
There has to be something glaring in your measurables for it to be that big a difference. Because, I mean, he made every play in that defense. He was getting like pick sixes and outrunning receivers and tight ends and shit.
Man, I think that once that whole girlfriend thing happened, it just made, because look, bro, I played against him. You probably played against him when he was in San Diego.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I made fun of him on the field.
Yeah,
I was like, where your girl at?
I mean, once your psyche takes a hit like that.
That's what I'm saying. I feel like maybe he took a hit psychologically that he just could not recover from.
Your whole swag is gone. And
everything.
That's important for football. I mean, you got to have that fucking confidence that, your shit don't stink and your fucking balls drag around the ground when you're walking down the street.
I need a grocery cart to put these balls in.
You got to have that kind of belief in yourself. And once that shit's gone, it's tough.
Gone. It's hard to get it back.
It's tough to build that back up. And obviously he didn't. He wasn't able to. But I don't see that from this kid, Nakobe Dean.
Oh no.
I mean,
Oh no.
I don't care if he ran 4.8. I don't care if he ran 5 flat.
He got to go in the first. That's how I feel.
He was beating everybody to the ball.
So the Jaguars, just to round this up here, Jaguars got the B-. That's what I actually graded them. I put a poll up on my Twitter account for people to grade, for Jags fans or whoever to grade the Jags draft. And the majority of people voted for, I think I had like 300 votes. The majority of people gave them a B. And I gave them a B-. So we're kind of in the same wheelhouse here with Sports Illustrated. But that is going to be it for this one. We'll finish up on these draft grades on Wednesday. I know there were a couple that I went past to get up to Jacksonville, so I'll be sure to bookmark that so that I come back to it on Wednesday. But that is going to be it here for us, ladies and gents. We appreciate y'all for being in here. Lineman Life Live. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you share this live stream with your friends so they can join in here on our Monday and Wednesday live streams. We will be back on Wednesday, and we'll figure out, maybe we do a tier maker of some sort to kind of set things up and how we, maybe our first power ranking post NFL draft, our first little power ranking for the NFL. We'll do that in a tier maker style on Wednesday. That's the plan. We may or may not happen depending on how we're able to set it up, but that's the plan.
As long as nothing crazy happens in the news.
Yeah, as long as nothing stupid happen, we should be all right. But we do appreciate y'all for being in here. We will see y'all on Wednesday. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you get notified each and every time we go live. I'm your reserve lineman, Uche Nwaneri. My co-host here, Justin Blaylock. We appreciate y'all, and we will see y'all on the next Lineman Life Live. Peace.